It is Monday, May 25th, 2026, and Iran just made one of the most spectacular strategic own goals in modern military history. They closed the Strait of Hormuz, lost over 120 naval vessels trying to hold it, burned through what CENTCOM confirms is $500 million per day of their economy, watched 5 Gulf nations file a formal protest letter to the International Maritime Organization against them, and then, as the cherry on top, Iran published a new jurisdiction map this past Thursday claiming sovereignty over UAE and Oman's own territorial waters. And the world's response? Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE fired off a joint letter to the IMO telling every shipping operator on Earth to reject Iran's new toll authority entirely. So Iran tried to tax the world's most important waterway. The world said no. The US blockade is squeezing them dry. And as of yesterday, Trump announced the deal to reopen the strait is largely negotiated. Let's break down exactly how this whole PGSA scheme blew up in the mullahs' faces, what the US military did to make it happen, and what comes next, because the next 48 to 72 hours could change everything. Let's build the full picture here, because the layers on this one are deep. On May 5th, 2026, Iran formally launched the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, the PGSA, official domain, pgsa.ir, email address, info@pgsa.ir, a 40-plus question vessel declaration form demanding full ownership chains, crew nationalities, cargo manifests, insurance details, all of it. And then, on May 22nd, the PGSA published a brand new jurisdiction map that, I am not making this up, drew its claimed maritime management zone anchored directly to points inside UAE sovereign territory, south of Fujairah and Al-Quwain. They literally claimed UAE water as their toll zone. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE responded within 48 hours with that joint IMO letter, distributed to every maritime authority on the planet, telling commercial and merchant operators worldwide, do not engage with the PGSA, do not transit using Iran's designated route. That is 5 of the 6 Gulf Cooperation Council nations publicly rejecting Iran's entire legal framework in one document. Even Oman, whose territorial waters were literally named in that encroachment zone, didn't sign the letter, because Oman is quietly negotiating its own bilateral toll arrangement with Tehran. Even the nation Iran is trying to squeeze is cutting side deals around them. That is not a position of strength. That is the map of a regime running out of options. Now let's talk about the diplomatic endgame, because this is where it gets wild in the best possible way. Trump has been crystal clear on his demands, and they have not moved 1 inch. Full cessation of all uranium enrichment, dismantlement of the ballistic missile program, and complete dismantling of the Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan nuclear sites, which US forces already hit hard during the initial strikes. Iran's counterproposal? A 5-year moratorium, which, when you translate that from diplomatic language into English, means give us 5 years, let our economy recover, release our frozen assets, and trust us not to build the bomb. Trump's assessment, delivered publicly, totally unacceptable. And just yesterday, May 24th, Trump posted that the deal is largely negotiated and will be announced shortly after a phone call from the Oval Office with the leaders of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain simultaneously. 8 leaders on one call. That is not a president scrambling for a deal. That is a president presenting terms. And Iran's foreign ministry said on the same day that the two sides are in the final stage of a memorandum of understanding. Sun Tzu said, know your enemy and know yourself. Iran's enemy right now is its own economic collapse, and deep down the mullahs know it. Here is the part of this story that mainstream media is completely missing. The PGSA toll scheme didn't just fail diplomatically, it failed financially and legally simultaneously in 3 different ways at once. First, OFAC's May 1st advisory made paying the toll a secondary sanctions violation for any global firm, regardless of payment method, cash, yuan, Bitcoin, anything. So every Western shipping company that even considers paying the PGSA fee is risking complete isolation from the US financial system. Second, the toll is only being paid right now by Chinese-linked shadow fleet vessels. Not a single Western-flagged operator has publicly acknowledged making a payment. 0. The PGSA's customer base is literally the dark fleet of vessels already running with AIS transponders turned off. Iran built a toll booth, and the only people paying are the ones who were already sneaking around the system. Third, and this is the kicker, Iran's own PGSA map claimed waters that legally belong to the UAE and Oman under existing maritime treaties, including a 1974 bilateral agreement between Iran and Oman. Iran didn't just overreach geopolitically, they drew a line on their own map that proves, in writing, they are making a territorial claim on a sovereign neighbor's waters. The Institute for the Study of War described it plainly. Formalizing Iranian control over Hormuz is a territorial claim on the sovereign territory of another country. You can't walk that back. Now, while all of this is happening on the diplomatic and legal front, the military picture behind it is what is actually driving Iran to the table. Operation Epic Fury destroyed or incapacitated more than 120 Iranian naval vessels. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper testified under oath before the Senate Armed Services Committee that Iran's combined navy would need 5 to 10 years to rebuild. The aerial campaign that kicked off on March 19th systematically dismantled Iranian naval bases at Bandar Abbas and Konarak, the IRGC Navy headquarters, and the drone carrier warship Shahid Bagheri. The U.S. blockade, active since April 13th, has intercepted 33 vessels and seized 3 ships, per CENTCOM's own confirmed numbers. And on the air defense side, protecting Gulf allies from Iranian retaliation, the UAE is now operating one of the most layered missile defense architectures on Earth, combining THAAD, Patriot batteries, and Israeli Iron Dome systems, the latter confirmed deployed by U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, who said Israel sent Iron Dome batteries and personnel to operate them directly to UAE soil. When Iran launched its retaliatory wave of roughly 550 ballistic and cruise missiles, combined with over 2,200 drones against Gulf targets, the layered system absorbed the vast majority of them. The coalition's shield is working. And here is the 4D chess strategic picture that ties this all together. Iran's PGSA gamble was never really about tolls, it was about time. The mullahs need sanctions relief, need frozen assets unfrozen, need the blockade lifted, need their economy to breathe again. The toll scheme was their attempt to create a legal and bureaucratic fact on the ground, an institution they could point to in any negotiated settlement and say, this stays. The U.S. response, OFAC Sanctions Advisory, the Gulf States IMO letter, continued naval blockade, stripped every one of those facts away before they could harden into reality. Iran tried to legalize piracy with an email address, and the world community sent a reply all, rejected. Now Trump has the deal largely negotiated. Iran's foreign ministry says positions are becoming closer, and the military targeting chain, F-35C as the invisible sensor, a 10 Warthog with its 30mm GAU-8 Avenger pointed at every remaining IRGC fast attack boat, remains hot and ready if the diplomacy collapses. Iran taxed the Strait of Hormuz. The tax backfired, and the bill is coming due right now. What do you think happens in the next 72 hours? Let me know in the comments. Follow me on X. Follow me on Instagram. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.